think military considerations are very important to start with. If you look at the map there, you see the map, so-called, you see this line there, the red line. It's called the first island chain. Now I have to take a little bit back in history, how that started in Chinese military thinking. We have to take you back 20 years ago. There were elections in Taiwan, which, as you may know, China regards as an inseparable part of China, but it's de facto independent. And there were elections in those years, and the pro-independence candidate threatened to win the elections, and so China had naval exercises in the street of Taiwan in 1996. And then the Americans, President Clinton at the time, sent a few air carriers to make clear to the Chinese side that this was not acceptable. The Chinese side had to withdraw, and it was seen as a loss of face. And on top of that, Leiden, the candidate who, although he was from Kuomintang, was quite independent, won the elections with a big margin, with a landslide. So Chinese military thinking thought, well, we must keep those Americans out of our direct vicinity. Preferably behind that line. There's also a second island chain, but that goes much further into the Pacific. The first island chain, as you can see, goes from all the way south to Japan, even more north to Korea, Japan, Taiwan, north of the Philippines, all the way to Borneo. You could say, I talked to a guy in China, foreign diplomat, but he was a military expert. He says China's the western and the northern borders are more or less secure, military speaking, geopolitically speaking, but especially the South China Sea is seen as a soft underbelly. This is an important channel, goes through the Straits of Malacca, which already from ancient times was a very important strait and very narrow. If you can control that, you control a lot of trade going to and from China, and not only China, by the way, also Japan and Korea. So anyway, this is very crucial to keep this open, these arteries, especially in that it has a military aspect, as China has no overseas allies. If you look at the Chinese political landscape, it has 14 neighboring states, land neighbor states. It has even more, I think 21 and 22 sea neighbors, the total sea, if you include the sea neighbor states, and there are basically no allies. So China feels a little bit alone, isolated, threatened if you like, and that's why it has a military necessity, as it sees it, to have offshore base. And if you cannot establish a basis in a friendly country, you do it on an island.
Which country has better claim in international law? Various factors need to be considered here. The first factor is that these countries rely on different sources of international law, including treaty, customary law, and general principles of law. So if these different sources lead to different conclusions, which source is going to prevail? And the third factor here is related to the Eurocentric international law issue. As we know, the international law we have today was originated and developed in Western civilization, but the countries in this dispute, they are Asian countries. And the second main legal issue here is before the final settlement of the dispute, which will always take a long time, what kind of provisional arrangements can we make in order to keep and achieve the peace in this area? So we will discuss the ongoing arbitration case between Philippines and China. The tribunal says that if there is an island claimed by China within 200 nautical miles of these two features, so it's also related to the overlapping entitlements between China and the Philippines. And according to the tribunal, if such overlapping entitlements exist here, then these three claims will belong to the disputes concerning the sea boundary delimitation. And as we discussed above, China made reservation in 2006 regarding to disputes concerning the sea boundary delimitations. So, in the tribunal's view here, if such overlapping entitlements is proved here, then these three claims will belong to the disputes regarding the sea boundary delimitation. So the tribunal cannot have jurisdiction over these three claims here. So from this table, we can see that the possible existence of the overlapping entitlements between China and the Philippines will influence the decision over 5 claims here. And actually, these 5 claims are very critical to Philippines' interests in this case.